So today I'm going to be doing my very first ever wild camp in Yorkshire. Well, it's actually not looking particularly promising up here. I seem to have found the only non-flat part of Malham, which is not great.
I was pushing the limit of this sleep system.
Well, I've just arrived at Malham in Skipton and it's absolutely glorious. What a beautiful day. As I'm sure you can imagine though, it's extremely busy. I've arrived about 3 o'clock, so quite late, but the hope is that everybody will be on the way out now so that I should be able to take some footage without pissing people off or feeling embarrassed. So let's hope. So today I'm going to be doing my very first ever wild camp in Yorkshire. Strangely enough, I mean, even though I've done well over 100 wild camps, they've all been in the Lake District, Wales and Scotland. So I've never done one in the Peak District or in Yorkshire. So this is a virgin territory for me. I'm not a virgin though. So without a doubt, this is one of my favourite walks. It is just beautiful. There's so much to see. Let me come through this gate here. So there's so much to see here. There's a few waterfalls, there's the cove itself, there's some limestone flats, a little stream. Pretty much wherever you turn around, there's something new there to see. It's a very, very feature-packed walk, to say the least. So I'd say that, without a doubt, this is my favourite non-mountain walk. It's definitely one of those places where I think you should definitely come here when it's good weather. It really lends itself to it. So I remember the first time I ever came here, I was utterly blown away. I mean, every single corner I turned, there was just something new. I couldn't believe it, you know. Something like this is a couple of hours up the road. Yeah. So it's a very warm day today, 21.6 degrees to be precise. So what I've decided to do today is to bring my Ultralight summer wild camping kit. And this weighs 6.5 kilograms. It's got a 2-man tent and everything that you need for a wild camp. That's a base weight, so it doesn't include water or food. Altogether, everything that I'm carrying now, most likely 7.5. So talking about my base weight just made me realise that I've actually forgot my water today. That's a bit of a rookie mistake. But luckily, I do have an empty water bottle and a water filter, so I'm going to be all right. I'll just fill that up at the waterfall in a bit. It was always the plan to use that to fill up for water for my dehydrated food tonight. So I'm just going to have to fill up for drinking water as well. So there's going to be a fair amount of jumping in the video today because there's a lot of people kind of coming towards me. So rather than talking as I walk past, feeling like a weirdo and making them feel uncomfortable, I'll just stop recording and then just continue once they've passed. So I'm going to be stopping in a second anyway. There's another group of people. There we go. So a water filter is absolutely essential for ultralight backpacking. If you're ever going to do more than one day, you're going to want to kind of bring a water filter with you so that you can filter water as and when needed for dehydrated meals. Typically, I wouldn't be bringing fresh ingredients with me to cook when I'm doing multi-day. It'd just be dehydrated meals. Dehydrated meals weigh about 250, 300 grams, so you can easily bring 5 or 10 of those along with you if you're going to do like a prolonged camp. It weighs pretty much nothing, and because you're filtering water each day for every meal, you don't have to worry about carrying litres of water with you. So the only thing you really need to do is just ensure that you plan your route with water sources in mind, which is easy enough to do in the UK. So today I've brought my Ultralight summer backpacking kit with me. It's a trekking pole tent. That only weighs about 800 grams, I think. It's the Gossamer Gear, the 2. I always use a 2-man tent, never use a 1-man tent. I like to camp in luxury nowadays. I'm using an Ultralight Exped mat, which has got an R value of about 5, I think, so that should be fine. And the sleeping quilt that I'm using is good to -1. All that being said, even though it's about 22 degrees now, it is forecast to go down to around about 4 or 5 degrees overnight. It's definitely premature to be using the summer camp kit, to be honest. And even though it's good for -1, you should never really expect that it's going to be comfortable at its limit. So I think I'm going to be pretty cold tonight. I have brought a lightweight insulated jacket, and if it comes to it, I'll just wear the pants that I'm wearing now just to keep warm. But yeah, I think I'm definitely expecting a bit of a cold one tonight. But, you know, I just thought I'd break things up. I've been using my Trekker tent Seer lots recently, and I do kind of miss the Gossamer gear. It's a bit of a good tent. If you've never heard of it, it's pretty much the same as most trek and pole tents. It's probably on the lighter side compared to most. The only ones that are lighter are DCF. So while I do love DCF, I'm not a huge fan of how transparent it is. And even though it's way stronger than sil nylon and things like that, it doesn't actually pack down as tightly as sil nylon. So I did opt to get a sil nylon tent for summer, just so that it can pack down more. I mean, this place is absolutely stunning. There's just so much to see. Every time you turn around a corner, there's something new. There's a lot of people coming this way, so I'm hoping that by the time I get to the main waterfall, I should be able to get some drone footage of me climbing up it. I wouldn't do that if there's loads of people around, because it's not fair on them. So yeah, hopefully I'll be able to capture that. So this little trail goes on to a little place called Janet's Foss, which is like a nice little enclosed waterfall. A very popular spot for wild swimming and things like that. Very noisy birds. So I've never really looked at this place as a potential wild camping. However, I have been up here dozens of times before just hiking, and I know that the top is very flat. In fact, the whole walk really is quite flat. There's essentially just one little step up, which is where I'll be climbing up the waterfall shortly. I'm just round the corner from Janet's Foss now. I'm not going to get in, I'll just pass it quite quickly because I need to crack on with this really. But yeah, it's a stunning, stunning little waterfall. Right, so I'm just going to clamber up these steps here, and then I'll turn the camera around so that you can see. Got a couple of wild swimmers over there, quite alarmed that I had my camera out. Just explained that it was pointing this way. I'm going to ask them actually if they don't mind me taking a little bit of footage of them swimming. So a very friendly couple they were. I do love that about the outdoors. It does tend to bring the nice out in people. I remember the first time I ever seen Goredale Scar, and I was just blown away. I don't think I'd ever seen anything like it, to be honest. And it just reminded me of, if it was sandstone, that it would be like the Wild West. Because if you have a look at the features, the way that the kind of hill goes kind of up at the top, it's got a very similar kind of characteristic to those Wild West mountains. So the original plan was to go through Goredale Scar and then get some drone footage of me climbing up the waterfall. But just looking at the sheer number of people who are still kind of heading this way, I don't think that would be fair on everybody else. So what I think I'm going to do is wake up nice and early from the wild camp and then come back here, climb down and then climb back up and record it all on drone when the place should be empty. And that way I'm not pissing people off with the hum of the drone, which I do find annoying myself, to be honest. So out of respect, I won't do it. I mean, I'm looking down now and I can see at least 20, people kind of heading there now, so there's no chance that it's going to clear up by the time I get there. So that's the plan, and then what I'll do is I'll magically splice it in there so it looks like I climbed up it on the day rather than the day after. Aye, smoke and mirrors, smoke and mirrors. Yeah, so I don't think there's ever going to be a day when you can come here and there's not going to be lots of people. So the only real option, I think, to do it respectfully will be to come here about 7 or 8 in the morning. But I think the forecast for tomorrow is quite windy, so I don't actually think I'm going to be able to do it. The drone that I've brought with me today is really, really shite in the wind, so I don't think it's going to be any good. I'll give it a try anyway, unless it's crazy windy. But so Malham's actually a hot spot for bolted climbing, and in the summer you'll definitely see lots of climbers around here. The grade's incredibly high, very challenging, so the only real way you can do it is bolted. Right, so it's some sort of event clearly, because that's quite a lot of people. So I got pretty lucky there, to be honest. So there was absolutely tons of people at the waterfall. However, they were all on a school trip or something, and they were being quite noisy themselves. So I felt that it would have been acceptable to fly the drone, which was actually quite far away from them, without there being any sort of noise pollution from it. So yeah, I managed to get myself some footage of me climbing up and a couple of nice little shots of the waterfall itself. So no need to wake up early and do the recording as initially planned. So excellent stuff. So Malham itself is really flat. The bottom part is flat and the top part is flat, but then there's just this one little hill. So I've climbed up the waterfall, and then there's these steps here. And if you choose not to climb up the waterfall, then all you need to do is just climb up a little hill, which is quite steep, but not particularly long. So all in all, Malham is a really accessible place. You can do like 10-15 miles here and make barely any ascent, so it's quite easy for most people to do, aside from, as I say, that hill to get to the top layer. So Malham is a circular, so this way that I've come up now, I don't actually think is the typical way of coming up. So most people go up the cove itself, and there's lots of steps there. Oh Christ, a little bit knackered going up these steps and talking, so I'll just carry on the chat when I get to the top, which is right here. Look at this though, this is ridiculous. So a little tiny bit of a negative rant here. I am all for people enjoying the outdoors, but if you're one of those people who think enjoying the outdoors involves going woo in echoey places, and then just fucking stop it. So by the time that whoop of joy travels to somebody's ears half a mile away or something, it's quite possible that they're going to mistake it for the sound of somebody falling off the mountain. So this can cause mountain rescue to be called, or it can actually endanger the person who's heard it as they start travelling around trying to find the source of the falling human. So yeah, please refrain from whooping when you're in the outdoors. And if you really, really must whoop, at least just like subdue it a little bit, like a whoo, whoop, whoo, something like that, please. So yeah, rant over. So just looking ahead there, I can see what looks like a couple of people going up for a wild camp themselves. So even though I've never done a wild camp in Yorkshire, there is one thing that I do know about it, and that's that it's mostly very, very flat. So I don't think I'm going to struggle to find somewhere to wild camp. So as I say, Malham itself is basically just two flat plains kind of joined together by a hill or that waterfall. So other than the fact that the soil's quite hard and dry today, I don't really think I'm going to struggle at all to find somewhere to camp. So just in case anybody is a little bit curious as to why I've been wild camping for 12 years but never actually camped in Yorkshire or the Peak District, I think the reason for that is it doesn't quite fill the quota for what I consider a genuine wild camp in England and Wales, which is above a certain altitude and away from kind of traffic or paths, things like that. So there isn't really anywhere in the Peak District or Yorkshire that's particularly high. There's 3 mountains in the Peak District and that's it. And then most of the places that I'm aware of in the Peak District in Yorkshire, they're just really popular. So my experience with the Peak District in Yorkshire is actually quite limited, to be honest. I've done like all of the usual suspects, but as I say, never wild camped. So in my mind, anywhere that you can wild camp that's going to be kind of interesting with an interesting view, it's not going to be particularly high up and it's going to be very close to a path. And like I say, that doesn't really kind of fit in with my understanding or my ethos, as it were, for wild camping. And that's definitely down to an experience, to be honest. I've never really set out for a hike in the Peak District with the intention of camping, so I've not really ever looked around. Obviously, always aware that it is a relatively flat place. I mean, I'll just turn my camera on now just so you can see. And it's just pretty much like this for miles around. So even though this is a well-trodden path, I'm fairly sure that if I was to kind of head off over in that direction, I would find somewhere to camp within about 34 seconds. So bring it back around. So I do find it's an interesting place. You know, it really lends itself well to wild camping, but it doesn't really fulfill the criteria of wild camping in England. So I do plan on easing some of the strict guidelines that I've got implanted in that bloody head of mine, and just like kind of letting go a little bit and doing more wild camping in places that I ordinarily wouldn't do. So today, going to be camping in Yorkshire, and then in the next week or two, going to do a camp in the Peak District, I think. I'm quite looking forward to it, to be honest. I've seen loads of videos of Paul Messner and whatnot camping in the Peak District, and it does look lovely, and I absolutely love places like the Roaches. But, well, like I say, it's just such a busy place, and all the places that I see are so close to a path, it just doesn't... I need to let go, goddammit, I just need to let go. So back to the walk anyway. Malham Cove, Malham Tarn, and all of that area, kind of Goredale Scar. It's a big, massive circular. I think it's around about 10 miles. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to head over to Malham Tarn, and then there's a hill just behind it. And now I'm hoping, it's a small hill, but I'm hoping that at the top there's going to be somewhere to camp, because that does kind of fill the criteria a little bit better for wild camping. But because we've got fairly long days now, if there's nothing up there, I can just drop down, and I mean, like literally everywhere I'm looking now, it's just a glorious camping flat spots. So no worries at all. You see, ordinarily, it's actually a big concern of mine when I go camping somewhere that I've never been before, because you can actually spend ages walking around and not find a camp spot. Now, when I've done multi-day camps, that's been a bit of an issue. So in the past, when I did the Welsh 3000s, I did it over a few days just to take my time and enjoy it. And what I actually ended up doing is kind of making a mental note of somewhere that I could camp. And then when it came time to camp, I even had to kind of head back a mile or so just to go and find that spot. Especially mountainous areas, you can be really sparse, the places where you can camp. And that kind of gets magnified as well when you're having two-man tents. And the tent that I'm using today has got a massive footprint. So while it's really luxurious and roomy, it's a pain in the arse sometimes to set up. Quite often you'll find somewhere that's amazing to pitch, but you just never get in your tent there. So that's where things like the Trekker tent Sear really come into their own. Freestanding, you just pick it up and you can just plop it in the smallest little areas. But as I say, this is my ultralight kit for summer, and as part of that, it's a trekking pole tent just to save weight. And because I'm doing a circular, I'm only going to be doing half the route today, and then I'm going to wild camp and do the other half tomorrow. So whatever you do, don't stop the video once I've done my little wild camp, because unlike most of my other videos, it doesn't just end there. There's going to be like kind of the other half of the journey afterwards. And to be honest, I think even though what I've done today is fantastic, I think the better half comes later on with the limestone flats and then Malham Cove itself. So yeah, definitely stick around for that. Don't leave me, man, don't leave. So I just thought I'd show you as well. So this is the 35 litre backpack that I've got. So as you can see, it's really, really compressed down to probably around about 25 litres, because obviously my summer backpacking stuff takes up way less room. I am aware, by the way, that it looks like some sort of 1960s jetpack, but that's fine, I don't mind that. I've just realised, like an absolute knob, I forgot to filter some water down there like I'd planned. So not only have I forgot to bring me water, but I forgot to fill up my water. Now luckily I am coming to a tarn. I would have preferred fresh flowing water from a waterfall, but a tarn will do. These filters are brilliant, so I don't particularly worry about kind of drinking out of a tarn. Bit of a forgetful one today. So to be honest, it was a little bit last minute, this wild camp. So I had planned on going to the Peak District yesterday, but instead I spent all day indoors editing a video. And that's actually the video about the truth behind being a content creator. And sadly, that video is not performing well at all. So in hindsight, I should really have fucked off editing it and just gone out. And if you've not seen that video, go and watch it because it is quite entertaining. And I think because I've been looking at the stats today and I can just see that that video is failing, I thought to myself, do you know what, sod it, I'm not going to forgive myself if I waste the whole week. So I decided last minute to come out and do this wild camp today. I mean, it worked out quite well because obviously Malham is an incredibly busy spot, so coming later is beneficial because I can miss the crowds. So not all bad. So I don't know if you can see in the distance there, but that's the hill that I'm going to try and camp on today. It's actually crazy because in my eyes, that's massive, but looking through this little screen, it's the tiniest little dot inside a very wide field of view. So while I'm just making my way up to the little camp spot, I just thought I'd have a little chat about what's in me backpack. Without a doubt, this 35 litre backpack definitely suits very light loads. I mean, I can barely feel it now, but when I've got my winter kit in there, even though it's only a couple of kilograms more, I can definitely feel the difference. You know, it starts kind of getting my shoulders and stuff like that. And that is kind of what you should expect from a frameless backpack. You know, they're not designed to carry heavy loads. And that's really where the frame comes into its own as it starts kind of transferring that load onto your hip. It's such a beautiful evening. Very little wind and just really nice and warm. It's around about 12, 13 degrees, but just kind of nice and mellow, you know. As I said before, it is due to drop down to around about 4 or 5 degrees overnight. So it is going to get cold in that tent. Yeah, I'm definitely pushing the limits of that sleep system and it's a bit premature, but I just couldn't help myself. I will be honest though, and this will make a lot more sense if you've watched the video that I put up the other day about the kind of behind the scenes of being a YouTuber. The reason why I brought my summer kit today was mostly because in all my videos so far, I've been using the same tent, and I just thought I'd add a little bit of variety for me content, even though it is premature and probably not the best tent or sleep system to be using tonight. It's not completely outrageous or irresponsible. The tent and sleep system definitely going to be able to cope with tonight, but not going to be the most comfortable night's sleep. It's just interesting how being a YouTuber can start to shape your decision making a little bit, you know. But just to be clear on that, I mean, one thing that I definitely won't do is take risks just because I'm making content. So even though I may go up and down a climb just to make sure that I've got the right footage, whereas obviously on my own, I would just go up it once and that'll be that. I'm never going to really endanger myself, so you're almost never going to see me kind of scrambling with this in my hand. I think that's just a little bit irresponsible, and to be honest, I think mountain rescue would probably prefer to just eat the tea than come and rescue me for being a tit with a video camera. But generally speaking, I'll always be using drones to get kind of remote footage of me doing any sort of climb, and that way I can focus completely on the climb, make sure that I'm safe and get the footage, and then all I need to do is when I get down, have a little look at my footage. If it worked out, sound, carry on. If it didn't, down climb and do it again. I did buy an Insta360 ages ago with the idea of using that to record my kind of climbing and things like that. I just really didn't dig it at all. There's so much kind of weird movement going on while you're climbing that I just think it's more distracting than helpful. But that being said, I have actually recently bought the upgraded version, the X4. I don't particularly plan on using that much for climbing and stuff. That's mostly just for B-roll, to be honest. Just to make some interesting shots and like kind of walk by shots and things like that. I'll try and show you with this, but essentially there's just all this weird stuff goes on like that when you're using it Insta360. So yeah, I don't think it's suited at all for that kind of a shot. And I do see people using them for scrambling all the time, and I just find it nauseating. And given that I've got a drone, I'd rather just use the drone and get a much better shot from a distance. Oh, absolutely beautiful. Sun's getting nice and low now. It looks like I'm gonna have a decent sunset. I'm just heading over now to the Tarn just to get some water, have a little drink, and then collect some water for my dehydrated meal in a bit. Really looking forward to this camp, to be honest. It's been a long time since I've used this tent because I've been using the Trekker tent Sear for ages. In hindsight, it probably would have been nice to have brought some fresh food with me and done some cooking while I'm camping. But to be honest, I've upgraded a couple of little bits and bobs. So I just wanted to test my Ultralight summer kit. Yeah, so I think the fact that it's 4.5 kilograms and good to -1 isn't too shabby. You know, I could definitely make it lighter, but I think my general kind of train of thought when it comes to camping now is that I'd rather carry an extra kilogram and have a really nice mat and a really nice quilt, really nice pillow, things like that, because the importance of sleep can't really be understated. If you have a shitty sleep, I don't think you're really going to care about that extra kilogram. You know, you're probably going to wish that you just brought it with you anyway. So yeah, so I've learned from experience, basically, shaving off that extra kilogram and having a crappy night's sleep just isn't worth it. So you'll never see me using a mummy-shaped sleep mat, anything like that. Quite an interesting thing about the plateau up here at Malham is that even though it's very flat, it's quite easy to get lost up here. And that sounds dead strange because there's not much up here. But multiple times I've kind of started heading down one particular place and then realised that actually where I wanted to be was right on the other side of the plateau. Hiya mate, you all right? Just walked past the sheep there that did the typical piss because it's a little bit scared. So, a little fun fact in case anyone's interested why that happens. It's the same reason why you shit yourself when you're scared. Essentially, it's just to lower your body weight as much as possible so that you stand a better chance of escaping because you're that little tiny bit lighter. I'm not entirely sure how much faster you're going to be after dumping a pound of feces, but yeah, it's quite a primitive thing and every animal does it. I'm also fairly sure as well that having shite running down your legs is going to make a mountain lion think twice about eating you. So I'm just going to filter some water from the Tarn here. So it would have been better if I'd used a running water source. I'm not expecting this to taste nice, to be honest. Filters do a great job of getting rid of all of the nasties from water, but they don't do a particularly good job at making it taste nice. So running water is always your best bet. Right, there we go. Oh, being eaten alive by these little midges. There we go. what you should always make sure whenever you filter water is that you've now got contaminated water on the outside. So even though it's not a particularly high chance that you're going to get something bad from that, always best to just wipe down the outside. That way when you drink through the filter you don't cross-contaminate with the bad water from the outside. Right, let's have a little taste of this, shall we? Yeah, it's got a very earthy taste, as you'd expect. Not the nicest, but I know it's safe and it's going to do the job. It's going to keep me alive. So, I'll let you into a little secret. I've actually just done all of that, but I just forgot to press record, so I had to pour this water away and then start again. So, smoke and mirrors. Almost at the top of this hill now. I am hoping there's somewhere flat at the top so I can camp. I'd always prefer to camp at the top of a hill than lower down in a bit of a more public area. So we'll see. Sunset's in around about 20 minutes. And I know I'll have about, itchy little flying things out now. Yeah, the sunset's in about 20 minutes and I reckon it'll be about another hour of light afterwards. Won't be ideal for doing video footage, but it'll be sound for me. Well, it's actually not looking particularly promising up here. I seem to have found the only non-flat part of Malham, which is not great. So it looks like I may have to drop down and go onto the plateau somewhere to camp. It was not my original plan, but needs must. I'm just going to keep going up and see if there's anywhere flat at the top. So it has got a little bit flat now, but it's very knotty. So you wouldn't be able to put a tent on here, especially not a trekking pole tent. I'm just going to touch the summit. It's not a trig, but I'm going to summit and then I'm going to drop down, I think, and just find somewhere on the plateau. So, just looking around now, and yeah, I mean, it's fairly flat, but it's just really knotty and clumpy. There's no way I'm going to be able to put a trekking pole tent up here. So, I'm going to drop down and find somewhere on the plateau. Plus, there's absolutely tons of sheep up here, and I'm quite sure they won't appreciate me putting a house in their grazing land. Hiya, mate, you alright? So this is not somewhere that I would normally camp, but as I was saying before about the fact that this entire place is flat, like, it took me about 5 minutes, if that, to find a spot big enough and flat enough to camp. I'm actually not too far away from the path, so definitely not something that I would normally do, but I don't think anybody's going to be here until maybe 9 or 10 tomorrow, so I'll be well and truly gone by then. I'm just looking around, bit of animal feces there, but not too bad. Yeah, this is perfect, this will do. So, yep. So, I've already checked with my pegs and they're easily going to go in. Lots and lots and lots of earth. So, there we go. So this is the Gossamer Gear, the 2. As you can see, pack's really, really small and weighs, I'll put it on the bottom, but I think it's about 700, 800 grams. It's very light. There are lighter versions of this type of tent, but this one kind of ticked all the boxes that I wanted. So anyway, one of the things that draws me to this tent more than any other is its colour. There we go. So it's a kind of a really natural green colour. I often find that the green used in tents is just a really gary green, not particularly natural, I don't think. Right, so So as you can see, it takes up a load of room. So I'll put that there. So I'm just gonna do this in real time. I'm not gonna try and do it fast or anything. Just gonna get it done. They can be a little bit tricky sometimes to set up trekking pole tents, but this one's not usually too bad. But that being said, it is about a year since I've pitched this tent, so I'm well and truly out of practice. So what you've got here is you've got the yellow guy line on the outside, and then I've added these little elastic black guy lines on the inside, which allows me to use the same peg to pitch the inner and the outer. Otherwise, you'd have to use 2 pegs for each corner, which is unusual for this type of tent. But anyway, I have a feeling that I've well and truly over tightened these corners. Right, where are we here? What am I looking at? Oh, there we go. Like I say, in my defence, it's at least a year, I think, since I've pitched this tent. So, out of practice, yeah, definitely done that wrong. Okay, but we'll see. We'll see. I can't actually remember what I'm supposed to put these at. Maybe 120, I think it is. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put it down lower, and then I'll extend it while it's inside. Alright, so there we go. Right, what have I got going on here? Clip. Move this out of the way. So, ooh, I'm a little bit lost as to what's happening. There we go, that's what's happening. It's funny how you forget something quite easily. There you go. So what have I got? I think I've only got that set to something mad like 110. Yeah, so I think the idea now would be you extend it. There you go. I'll do the same on this side. Bring this out. Oh, definitely going to have to do some modification on this once I've got it pitched, because this doesn't feel right. There we go. And then unclip this. And bring this out. There we go. Excellent stuff. Okay. Well, that seems very tight. Yeah, that's way too tight. Okay. What do I have to do to get this working? Loosen it a bit. Yeah, that's a bit much, that. Okay, I'm going to bring this in. Drop this down. I actually don't think I was supposed to have lowered that, so I'll bring this back up again. Put that in there, and then pull that down there. Okay, so yeah, that works much better. I think I just pulled this out a bit too far at the beginning, so I'll do the same on the back. Bit overzealous there. Yeah, that's the way to do it. Okay. So, tent's almost done now. Just kind of tweak each corner. as you can see, it's a really kind of nice, kind of tertiary green. But what I'll show you now is I had these little carbon fibre poles custom made just to the right height. Oh, twisted around here. There we go. Basically, what this is for is just to pull the inner out a little bit. So all you do is you wrap it around the once and then bring it down, and then you can tighten it. So for this one, because it's not load bearing, I just use little 6-inch pegs instead of the 9-inch ones for the corners. So if I just put that there, you can just pull this out now. So you can kind of use twigs and things for that, but because these carbon fibre poles weigh piss all, I may as well just bring them along. I'll put the weight of them underneath, but I think it's probably only about 20 grams, something like that. Really, really light. And it does add a significant amount of room on the inside, particularly your head and your feet. Oh, there we go. Put that there. Oh, right, and plop this down there. Oh, there we go. Nice and tight. Yeah. Happy with that. It's an unusual shape once it's all kind of pulled out like that. But what I really like about this as well, it's got like a waterproof zip going down the outside. And this kind of clips in place, so it opens one door, but if you need to, you can unclip it and open both doors. So in the summer, when you've got a lovely view, I just tie both of these away, and then you've got like a full mesh kind of view for the outdoors. But yeah, I'll just clip this in now. And there you go. So I find this a lot less faffy than the likes of Z-Packs, where you've got all sorts of weird like little clips going on down the bottom. So there you go. I'll just I'll pick this up and then just have a little walk around. So it's absolutely massive. 2-man tent, and it's like a genuine 2-man tent. It's not one of those like little pissy ones. There you go. And I'll show you the corner here. So this is where the guy line comes out, just wraps around here. Tighten up a little bit more, and it just pulls the inner out. So what I'll do now is I'll unzip, and then on the inside I'll show you. You can see where it's being pulled in there. You can see where it's been. Oh, what a stretchy finger. You can see where it's being pulled in on both sides, which gives you an absolute ton of headroom. So this is a really simple feature, but does seem to be missing on most of these types of tents, which is just a toggle to go around, just to keep your pole and the inner together. And there you go. So that just keeps everything in place, nice and simple. So I'm just going to bring me stuff inside now. This is what I love about minimalist ultralight backpacking, is there's just so little to bring and move around. So, there we go. So I'll just pop this in the corner, out the way. Little gear loft up here. Tent pegs out the way so they don't accidentally stab anything. God, I forgot how absolutely massive this is inside. It is ridiculous. Love it. Excited to start using this tent again, actually, to be honest. So as you can see, it's pretty cavernous. Got a nice bathtub floor. Lots and lots of room. So there's a thing at the top here called the gear loft. I don't actually use this too much. Put my pegs in there now just to keep it out of the way. And I always have this little hanging torch here, which I've not used in a year, so I'll be interested to see. Oh my word. So I'm just going to take my boots off and then get my little bed ready. So this is a single wall tent, and because of that, it doesn't really have any insulation properties. It's great for venting the way that it's set up. So because it's single wall, you do get a little bit of condensation on the inside, but because there's mesh all over the place and because there's such a massive gap between the fly and the floor, it's not actually as big an issue as you normally would expect from a single wall tent. So not too bad at all. Let's get me cook pot, a little wash bag, and my food for the day. Just get that out of the way. And then bring out my mat. So this is the Exped Sin Mat. So it's a synthetic insulation rather than down. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's R5, which should be absolutely fine for today. Probably be fine to sub-zero, but I've got better mats for that, so not something I care about. So it's 20 to 7 now, so the sun set about 10 minutes ago, I think. Little lantern there. It's really interesting. I've got loads of pillows and I spent a bloody fortune on them, and some of them are really, really good. This one I got free when I bought my most recent quilts, and it turns out that it's probably my favourite one. It's simpler than the rest because it's just got like a little elastic bungee on it so it goes round. I've modified all my other ones to have like Velcro, but this one just much easier, so I'll probably find myself using this one all the time from now on. Okay, so it doesn't take long at all to pump up with these there pumps. Okay, I'll put this up in the gear loft. Interestingly, I almost never use this gear loft, and I'm using it quite a lot today. Okay, so there's my summer weight quilt. So this one it's 850 down, good to -1, but it's really kind of puffy considering that it's nowhere near the same as my winter one. So basically it's like a full quilt that you'd have at home, so each side is wide open, but then you can zip it down and create a kind of foot box. So because it is going to go quite cold today, I'll be setting up the foot box for sure. There's just like a little zip, a popper to stop the zip from coming undone at the top, popper to stop the zip from coming undone at the bottom. And so what you've got now is a tube, and then there's just a cinch cord. There we go. So there's like a little baffle there to stop any kind of air from being able to come out. So that's it now. So this has just been converted into a sleeping quilt with a foot box. It is insanely lofty considering it's just a -1.
So, I absolutely love the freedom and flexibility of a quilt. Without a doubt, I'd never go back to using a sleeping bag. So, I've got myself spaghetti bolognese for tea tonight. I am actually going to do a video in the next week or two of how to do dehydrated spaghetti bolognese, because this is my last one. This is the Sosso stove. If you've seen my last video, you'll see how it works. Really kind of ingenious. It's a really good design. Everything separates and then just like kind of clips together so that you can pack it down smaller. Oh, really good. And unlike most, it's got 4 kind of little props to put your pot on, so really secure and stable. It's actually not too bad in the wind either, this. I don't think you'll be able to see, but it's got quite a big kind of lip on the outside, which is good at stopping the wind. What I'm going to do first. Just a little tip for you here. Always shake your gas canister before you start it going, because I've noticed that sometimes if it separates, you can kind of get like a really fucked up flame when it first starts, and it can set fire to you and burn you to death, and you don't want that. Oh, for me. Bit of a bunch in there. So yeah, not a bad little stove at all. Okay. See? Oh my god. Oh, that's really excited me. So I've just discovered that the lid on these Tokes pots is exactly the right size to fit this on. And you might wonder why that's important, but what happens is this creates a load of suction because of the cold. So if I was to put this on my tent floor and just kind of use it, it's quite likely that it's going to kind of suck to that, and you could potentially rip when I try to remove it. So even though it'll boil a little bit slower because I haven't got that, I'm going to put that underneath, and that'll stop that little bit of a suction from happening. Ooh, I love it when things like that work. I didn't half get savaged before when I was getting that water filtered. Ridiculous. It's not been too bad all day, and then all of a sudden I've got about 1612 bites on the scalp. That's not good. It shocks me, this tent, it really does. Whenever I get in it, I'm always just a bit shocked by just how much room there is. What I think I'm going to do, I'm going to put on the Petzl Bindi, just so that I can see. Ah, there we go, perfect. So one thing to be aware of when you, let me move this. One thing to be aware of, if you ever make dehydrated meals, when you first seal it up, it starts building up pressure. So when you give it a shake like this, so I always do it really gently at the beginning, it kind of goes and pops, and you can kind of get like a little waft of steam in your face. So I don't know if you've seen that then. So even though it's on this metal, it's still stuck a little bit to the floor of the tent, and if you look here, you can see that it's actually frozen to the bottom. So you see that was stuck on quite well. So with that, if that had happened onto the bottom of the tent and I'd have just pulled it up, it could have ripped. Now I actually did this in the boot of my car once, and you know, you've got all of that kind of velvety kind of material. It just ripped all of that up. So all of this fits really quite neatly inside the 750 Tokes. There you go, perfect. So about another 10 minutes, I think I'm going to leave for my bolognese. Just get it nice and dehydrated. Get myself back in here. I just thought I'd show you something while I'm here. So I bought this from a company called Ultralight gear. I've made a little tiny modification, just put my own kind of coloured cord around it and made it a little bit looser. But what it is it is a very small kind of torch and then a really small DCF lantern. So all you do is you put the torch on the inside like that, cinch it in, and then just blow. And it creates like a nice little kind of diffused light. He's told me recently that he's not going to produce these anymore, so once this stock is gone, it's gone. I think they're really good, so what I'd say is if you like the look of this and you want one, get onto his site and buy one now before it's too late. It is actually getting quite cold, so yeah, definitely going to be an interesting one tonight. So expecting to be shivering a little bit. I do really love this tent. There's always that temptation to replace it with a new tent, you know, a little tiny bit lighter, maybe a double wall one or something like that. But to be honest, this just does everything I need. There's no real reason that I should replace it. So yeah, I don't think I will. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to stop recording, and unless anything crazy happens in the middle of the night, I'll see you in the morning. Well, good morning. As expected, I was pushing the limit of this sleep system. It ended up going down to 2.2, so it was colder than expected, and that's inside the tent. So not only that, but the wind's really picked up. But because there's like a big gap underneath these tents, the wind is just coming straight through. So there's a huge amount of wind chill in here as well, which is not helping matters. So I ended up having to put my insulated jacket on. It's always good to know as well what your kind of sleep systems can cope with. So I would say that even though this one's rated to -1, I'd say 0 would be the absolute maximum for it while you're fully clothed underneath. But as I say, that's dealing with a bit of wind chill as well because of the design of this tent. I think if I was in the sea, I don't think it'd be as much of a problem. Looks like there's a nice little sunrise out there. Gonna have a little tiny look, I think. Let's get out of this goddamn quilt. Oh god, that's nice. Look at this. Very nice indeed. Oh Christ. Definitely worth being blasted with ice cold air for that view. Anyway, take this hood off. Well, it is. What time is it? Come on now. Got every bit of information you can ever imagine on this watch, except for the fucking time. So it is 5:59 precisely. So I'll probably pack up in about 20 minutes, I think. I mentioned when I was setting the tent up about the little carbon fibre poles that I've got. Well, I'll just show you on the inside now. That's where the guy line attaches, and if you have a look, there's a massive amount of headroom here now because of how far out that's been pulled. It is really impressive how much room there is in this tent. So it's like the footprint for the actual inner is probably about the same as the sear, but in terms of how much kind of headroom and how much space there is everywhere else, it absolutely pisses on it. It's almost square because of the way that this works. You know, you've just got a huge amount of headroom. I'll show you. Yeah, so I've just moved my camera down there. So if you look, I mean, this is me spread out with my arms right up in the air, and I can't even touch the ceiling. It does slope a little bit, but that really does help kind of bring it out. So a really, really roomy tent. Doesn't feel claustrophobic at all. So there's a very little bit of condensation on the inside. Not much at all, to be honest. I could get away with not even wiping it down. So that's another good thing about this tent. Even though it's a single skin, it doesn't really suffer that much from condensation at all because of the amount of mesh that's on it. So yeah, that's pretty much all of the condensation wiped off now. Generally, there's none at all on this side. Quite interesting, actually. So generally what I do with this tent is I just open both of the doors and just let like a bit of breeze come through and leave it like that for 10 minutes, and that's normally enough to evaporate the condensation. So yeah, but it makes it really good for multi-day hikes because there's nothing worse than kind of packing a soppy tent. So without a doubt, one of the worst things about wild camping is getting out of bed in the morning. Don't like it at all. But what I do find the easiest thing to do is to just do that. And now there's no choice. No more lying in bed. Anyway, it's very close, this, isn't it? Right, so I'm going to get myself ready and then mosey on down the plateau. So this is where I camped last night. It's definitely not somewhere I'd normally camp, really quite close to the road, but nice little spot to be honest. So I'm just going to head back to the car now. There's still quite a lot to see on the way back. We've got the limestone flats, the cove itself and a few other little features. It is a really nice and varied walk, lots to see. So nice fresh morning. It's still very cold, 6 degrees. Not as cold as it was last night, but that wind's got a bit of a nip to it. I'm hoping that it's not too windy and I can use the drone later on the flats because that'll look really nice. But if not, I'll do something interesting with the Insta360. That wild camp was quite a different experience, to be honest. I think because I'm used to wild camping at the top of mountains and I pretty much never camp down low, I'm not used to hearing all the wildlife. So yeah, lots of unusual bird and wildlife sounds, not something I'm used to hearing. Well, quite interesting. Quite enjoyed it, to be honest. Well, now that big ball of fire is back in the sky, things have got a little bit warmer, so I'm going to take off my insulated jackets now, I think. To be honest, I am quite glad that I'm a human. I wouldn't like to have been a sheep because they don't do that much. They just like kind of eat grass and knit the occasional jumper, have poos and wheeze, make ridiculous noises. But like, yeah, I think I definitely prefer being a human. It's quite an interesting place, I think, the Peak District and Yorkshire, because on the surface, it's just really kind of flat and featureless. But as soon as you start delving into those little nooks and crannies, there's just gems everywhere. I mean, some of the most beautiful places I've seen in the whole UK have been in the Peak District in Yorkshire. And I've not done that much in either of them. I've just done all the usual suspects. But I do think I need to do a bit more exploring over here, and possibly kind of more wild camping. Just arrived at the limestone flats, which you can see behind me over there. These are absolutely stunning. It's worth coming to Malham just for this, to be honest. Like, it is a really unique feature. I'll give you a bit of information about it as well at the end once I've done all my footage.
I think I managed to get some half decent drone footage there and maybe a little tiny bit of interesting 360 footage. I did shit myself though, because it's a little bit gusty up here, but not too bad. But as soon as I flew it over the edge, the updraft just caught it and it went right out of control. I thought I was going to lose it. I think that's one of the best things about these drones, the fact that they're 170 quid. So if you do lose it, you're not going to be heartbroken. You're probably going to be more gutted about the footage that you lost for that day. So definitely makes you want to use it more because you're not too bothered about losing it and breaking it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the little notice board and read the information and then recite it to you as if I'm dead knowledgeable and I knew it anyway. I do kind of know it. So those limestone flats, they were caused about 12,000 years ago by ice kind of scraping across the top and like kind of flattening it. And then over the years, water's just eroded away at it and kind of created all those little channels going through it. I think it's absolutely mind-blowing how powerful water is. Just over millions of years, it can create things like the Grand Canyon and stuff like that. So yeah, never underestimate the power of water. And if you ever leave your tap running for a few thousand years, it'll probably wear a hole in your sink. So I'm just going to head down these stairs now, and then the last little part of our journey today is Malham Cove itself. So Malham Cove's a little bit of a hot spot for climbing. I mentioned it before when... Hey, not a bird, man. I mentioned it before when we got to Goredale Scar and up near the Waterfall. There's lots of climbing there, but that's nowhere near as popular as this place here. I remember the first time I came here and seen the cove. It is bloody majestic, like it's massive, very imposing. I'll tell you what as well, that Tarn water tasted absolutely fucking disgusting. It's weird because it's like it's stained my taste buds with it. So pretty much every time I breathe in, all I can taste is that Tarn water. And then after I had my spaghetti bolognese last night, I was eating some nuts and bananas and literally all I could taste was that Tarn water. Even though I do know I'm not going to die because the water was filtered, it's important to know that it doesn't ever filter out the colour or the taste. So you can't go all Bear Grylls and filter your piss. I've said it before and I will say it again. It is one of my favourite places in the whole of the UK, this. Absolutely stunning and there's just so much to see. So there are actually some climbers there now about to do it. I'll just show you what they're about to climb up because it is epic. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It is one of my favourite places, like I've said. So if you got anything from this video, if you found it entertaining, informative, enjoyable, whatever, please do like it. And if you like this kind of content and you'd like to see some more, do consider subscribing because it really does help. So I'll see you next time. Bye.